in the sense of things.
So anyway, tools of the Renaissance. Bro, tell me about it.
Yeah, the first round of the course finished, and we're just getting in people's feedback now. The students participants are kind of completing their final assignments, which are a condition for receiving their 15,000 seeds. So that's a little incentive for them to be writing their blog posts or recording their conversations and so on. And yeah, the feedback,
deliverables, like part of
there are deliverables. Yeah, you know, we want our pound of flesh in exchange for these seeds. Yeah. Yeah, but the feedback has been good. And for sure, you know, given it's the first round, it was always going to be a little rough around the edges, but we think we mostly sort of hit the target, and yeah, really grateful to all the people that have provided quality feedback to help us improve it further. Yeah, it was, and great to have that session with Charles in. It was, yeah, and I thought
this session's epic, man. I mean,
yeah, he did a good job. he pretty much always does a good job, but he sort of like, yeah, tuned in to sort of where we're at and what this is about, and I thought it was really useful for us. Yeah.
So we were supposed to talk about comparing seeds with other crypto tokens today.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really exciting conversation, and let's definitely have it at some point. But I think there's something a little bit more inspiring and exciting that we could talk about. So I want you to choose between.
Oh yeah, okay.
There's this idea of the Architect Academy. So that game guide I was just telling you about. We've done with version 1. We want to bring as much wisdom to the table as we can, who wants to join, and go through it section by section, understand the tools, the philosophy, what we're trying to do, like what the protocols do, how they work, you know, stress test them against the collective intelligence, and prepare version 1.0 of the game guide to actually propose to the citizens. And call this the Architect Academy.
I mean, I'm easy for this next half an hour. I'm all yours. So let's go with that energy. I'd say, yeah.
Or we could talk about, you know, crypto tokens, comparing them, why it's different, you know, some of the economic philosophy behind it, what potential we have. It's kind of the difference between decentralized finance, which is creating new financial systems, and decentralized economics, which is creating new economic reality. Abstraction layer a little bit higher and deeper.
Yeah. Cool. I mean, let's have both of these conversations at various times, but I sense that maybe you have more energy for the first right now, and so given that I feel easy about it, like let's run with that, I'd say.
Yeah, because I think it's a better motivation and probably a higher necessity for the movement right now to serve the process of education, and that's what you're doing already and doing beautifully well. So I'd love to expand on that because the time is right for it too. It's the initial incubation stages of this new economic paradigm, and then testing collective intelligence. Well, we can't really do that if we're not collectively coming together and sharing knowledge and learning together, right? So I think we need to invest a lot more time in doing that, and of course making it better than free, and actually compensating people for showing up and bringing their wisdom to this, because that's a contribution too, and you damn well should be paid for that, because why not? So yeah, I wanted to unpack that with you, invite you to the table. There's some other beautiful people coming together to make it happen. And I want to start it on Earth Day, where we have the introductory one. And we set the stage, what we're trying to do. So it's unpacking the game. The game is, you know, Buckminster Fuller's vision of a world game, like make the world work for 100% of humanity in the shortest possible time. So we get it. And I think that would be really incredible to unfold as a game, bring in the initial few players and how to launch it. Kick that off on the 20th of April. 23rd.
Okay, right. So are you going to give me a little download on it now then?
That was it. That was the download.
Oh, come on. Now you're just teasing me. But yeah, like
that is the intro, but I don't like talking straight for too long. So I'd love to have you put your wisdom to this. Like, so what I'd love to do between you and I is just like try to tap into truth, try to see what that flow of information that wants to come through both of us right now is. I'm not going up to this conversation with a completely one-sided image I'm trying to feed you. I tap into a source of something, and I'm like, hey, what's your source?
All right. Okay, cool. I can work with that. So I mean, what it made me think of is just the insane amount of energy there's been around the whole kind of like metaverse, NFT, blockchain, gaming space right now. A lot of which is like obviously bullshit and like vacuous, but also it really feels like there's something there. And I don't know, are you familiar with the game Axie Infinity?
I am just
Come,
familiar. Been to their website a couple of times, not gonna lie, to see what it's all about. But
yeah, I mean, like, it's there's an amazing article that actually I share in the crypto course that I'm running about how it's got really big in the Philippines, and there are like now thousands of people all over the Philippines playing Axie and making like good money for the Philippines, like more than the average Philippine wage, by collecting these in-game items which are represented by ERC20 tokens, and then selling them into like stable coins, and then into and back into like fiat, like Filipino pesos. So that's a good example. It's like this is kind of happening. People are playing blockchain-based games, and actually using that to finance the kind of the basics of life. So I'd say there's already like it's just one sort of proof of concept. I totally believe this is possible and can actually appeal to well outside the kind of usual kind of like nerdy blockchain, kind of crypto DeFi elite who are if the Twitter sphere is anything to go by. Well, yeah, like there's it feels like it's quite the whole like metaverse NFT kind of gaming world is quite separate to the DeFi world, and they come from quite different cultures. And I think it's interesting. I mean, Seeds is going to tap into both. I hope. And
the way I look at it is this: it's the difference between a revolution and a renaissance.
mm-hmm.
A lot of the crypto space is focused on the revolution, which is the changing of the power structure. That's what a revolution is. It's evolving. It's kind of going in a circle. And that's what we see in the Philippines. Like, sure, people are now playing a game. So what does that mean? They're actually doing? They're staring at their phones for 12 hours a day, and they're getting paid to do it. So the revolution is, now they can get paid and feed themselves. Like, that's awesome. It's like, well, sure, people should be able to feed themselves. But economic evolution and like the Renaissance is like, wait, is having someone stare at their phone for 10 hours a day what beautiful civilization would have someone do? It's like, like they could be fulfilling their purpose and passion and becoming the best human they could be, and in doing so, most society.
Sure.
So that's kind of what we could take this revolution technology and re-engineer it to be Renaissance technology.
Yeah, absolutely. Like if the games that people are playing, I mean, I will say that like it sounds like people do enjoy playing Axie, like to a point, and like that's I guess what Seeds will seek to have in common with Axie. Is like it should still be fun, like, but beyond that, it could be because it could be educational, and it could be regenerative. It could be of like the games that people are playing could be of ecological benefit. So I think it's just Axie is just scratching the surface of something vast that I think Seeds has a great chance of like tapping into to much wider social and environmental benefit. Yeah.
Well, that's what the games could be. Instead of the games being, stare at your phone and do something, the game could be, come meet this random 3 people that we've decided are pretty close to your interest, and go buy a tree together, get some seedlings, however you do it, and go plant some trees. And if you do so, you're going to earn, $500 worth of this new currency.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So that's a fun game to play. I'm going to meet people, get out there, have a holistic experience, probably touch with the earth a little bit more. Probably for the first time ever getting like soil on my hands, because I just lived in a city and now I'm planting a tree and in the woods. Having more opportunity to have a mystical experience and get in touch with our spirit and sense of being. Anyway, I feel like that's how that weaves in.
And I mean of course one of the challenges of doing integrating kind of on-chain rewards with like off-chain actions is just people gaming the system or seeking to game the system, to use that way of the word game. And where are you at with that, like and how robust do you think the game of Seeds is to unfortunately the kind of inevitable attempts to game it, to cheat it?
Well, so what's interesting is we talked about having to decide between the Architect Academy and talking about different crypto tokens, but we actually decided how to weave those two together, and that's what we're doing. Okay, so we decided that the game is game proof. That's what the Architect Academy is about. It's about us going through it, like mind testing the protocols, because that's what we're doing, we're reading them. But simultaneously, we're about 80% done building it. So part of the Architect Academy is first, and why we're starting it now, is to learn about the protocols, go through it, conceptually understand it. By that time, it's actually ready. And then we start testing it. So we've been sending out test feeds right now to test how the hardest protocols work. And then we actually saw that the distribution was backwards. And the lowest ranking people got the most seeds and the highest ranking got the least. We're like, oh shit, we had that backwards. So we had to go. So anyway, that's what we're doing now with the Academy with Be Like This, and kind of deciding how we want this crypto token to influence our lives and help us serve this renaissance. And then maybe it's beyond money. Maybe it's beyond, creating currencies that look like Bitcoin that concentrate wealth. Awesome, there's a need for that, not in our new renaissance. Like, we don't need concentration of wealth technologies. We need technologies that help us coordinate ourselves better and more effectively towards goals that we care about. Like, talk to every human, every single one of them is going to tell you we don't want plastic in the ocean. It's a bad idea. Yet somehow, even though literally every single human wants that, we're doing the exact opposite of that. Like, our coordination skills are terrible. So that's what this technology is about. It's ultimately helping us figure out new ways to coordinate. It's our job as architects of this new system to test that shit and see if it's actually true. See how much we can evolve it, how we can keep evolving it.
Yeah. So at least what I know about kind of the kind of invitation and reputation system of seeds is that there is this kind of web of trust, if you like, and that my understanding of how the technology in which seeds is seeking to avoid people cheating seeds is that, like, if someone is found to be a bad actor, then not only are they removed and kind of punished in a way, but like all of the people that maybe have like vouched for that person, or like, there's a kind of, you can kind of go back to the chain, and like everyone is kind of receives a kind of little slap on the hand for kind of allowing that bad actor to kind of to perform those misdeeds. So I'm presuming that something similar is going on in the kind of the game of seeds, that like
Did you not read the game and now you're telling me the game mechanics? Are you saying these ought to be good game mechanics and the game guide should have this?
I haven't read this game guide in detail, no, not at all. But I've
exactly like you described as how it works.
Yeah. So, well, I think this is something that you've kind of, we've spoken about before a little bit, perhaps, but I haven't really kind of read it in the context of the game of seeds. So you're welcome to just like say a little bit about that if you like.
Yeah. So I just searched flagging in here. It brought me down.
Yeah.
There you go. Flagging and negative interpretation, right? So flagging occurs when one account uses a flag action to another. So any resident or citizen could say, hey, I think that account is fake, or I don't like, it's conducting fraud, or it's somehow manipulating the system. I think it's a false account, right? I can see it. And if I have a reputation of X, then my flag is going to be worth X. The account needs to be flagged up until a certain number of flag points. So on average, it takes around like 4 citizens to all agree with 100% weight that this account is, which if more people can signal that's a bad actor, then we're going to flag it. And then that account loses reputation equal to their reputation. And then the people who vouched for that account all lose reputation. So that has this like web effect that then triples reputation losses and gains.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's actually
bot accounts and bot webs, so then could all go down in one. If you like, pull one arm out of the network, then the whole network starts to collapse. So it creates exponentially easier to police the network.
Yeah, I have a sense this, this stuff working well is, I say, unfortunately, going to be really important because seeds is kind of in this kind of early phase when basically there's very, as far as I understand, there's very few bad actors. Like, it's not really a problem we've had to encounter at scale, but like if and when this really starts taking off, like there's going to be, all kinds of, both people, but probably more likely just bots, just like in the system, like basically trying to like, profit from it and so super encouraging to know that like some thought is going into these aspects. It actually reminds me a lot of the Circle's Universal Basic Income project, who have a similar kind of like web of trust model for determining as you may know, in Circle's every individual is issued their own currency, as that is what constitutes the universal basic income. But then who accepts who else's currency is determined by this underlying web of trust. So it's similar vibe to that, which actually there's a totally different universal basic income project now being run by democracy.earth, which takes a very different approach, which is actually based on proving your humanity. The site is like proofofhumanity.id or something, and you actually have to record a video of yourself and like hold up a piece of paper with the date and all this kind of stuff to show that you are a human. So there's no web of trust underlying that system. That's simply about, that's a more kind of traditional, like kind of decentralized KYC, if you like, if that's possible. And it's going to be really interesting. In principle, Seeds could do something like the latter, right? Like in principle, Seeds could actually ask for people to be proving they're a human, or but right now it seems more like it's kind of going with the former approach. And really curious to see how it works out. I suppose good to know that people are experimenting with alternatives. If this kind of web of trust approach doesn't work out well for some reason or another, good to know that there may be alternatives that we could try out instead. But so this whole field of like decentralized activity and like rooting out bad actors is really interesting space, I think, in the whole kind of this sort of world of decentralization right now.
Yes. So what you just talked about is an entire different department in our university that we're building right now, which is focused on then, researching other chains and other networks and what other groups are doing, and actually getting rid of this term other anyway, because it's all part of the broader movement anyway to create civilizations here. So it's just connecting with other networks and sharing information and wisdom back and forth. Just other ecosystems. Like
I think there's
into Cosmos and Holochain, so we can talk to all these different platforms. Like, why not?
I missed that a lot. Say that again. You'd like to build bridges to Cosmos and Holochain, yeah.
Yeah, and exactly. Like we already have one to Ethereum, so we're going to launch an Ethereum like ERC20 version of Seeds. We're joking around the other day and calling maybe we call it weeds, like wrapped seeds.
I think that this is a this is an interesting point. Like Seeds feels to me kind of like this like lost island right now. It's maybe appropriately New Zealand, where it's like developed this like very unique flora and fauna, like that kind of, it's like it's life, but it's like life, it's like life not as Europeans or kind of modern Americans like know it. It's had this like kind of very separate very separate ecosystem, and it feels like we're now, you actually use the word, it's now at the point at which we're allowing cross-pollination, like bridges with these other forms of life. And my sense is like lots of people in the blockchain world know nothing about it. They don't even know Seeds exist. It's very much under the radar. And I think they're going to be like there's going to be a lot of people. It's like they've just landed on New Zealand for the first time, like by ship, and just like, whoa, what is this stuff? And I'm incredibly excited to witness that. What will come of that? Yeah.
Very intentionally too, like. The story we're telling right now of civilization change is a pretty fucking audacious story. So people come with some pretty high expectations when you're telling them you're approaching that, right? So very intentionally, we've not shared anything about this because we wanted to get it really solid. And actually, it's growing completely on its own. It's got an attractive energy, and I think it's attracting all the right players at all the right times. And it's growing exactly the right way it needs to.
Yes, and there's beauty in cross-pollination and in collaboration. And I actually sense, that like it's, let's say this is all happening at the right time. It feels like, there's always more that could be done. There's always, the game guide, the app could always be that much, like we add one more feature and that much more perfect. But like, I'm really, where I'm at is like, okay, let's go. Let's start really like making those connections.
And that's when I want to launch the university. So this is what I'm saying we're doing.
It's just exciting. It's just an exciting moment in the history of the project, and also, so what, for example, there are a couple of there are a couple of similar kind of bubbles within the crypto space. We have this similar feeling that kind of have been like evolving on a kind of separate island without much contact to the kind of mainstream kind of like, sort of, world which has been dominated by DeFi over the past couple of years. And one of those is the XDAI chain, and projects like DAO House, like One Hive, and the whole Panvala community. Like it's really exciting to know of a couple of these other pockets, and to see what happens, particularly when those are merged. And for example, this decentralized identity question, and the work being done by democracy.earth, what an exciting possibility that actually seeds could, and just efficient possibility that seeds wouldn't have to necessarily like reinvent the wheel. It's like, oh, okay, someone's already invented that wheel, and like now once the cross-chain technology is there, like we can just like kind of plug into these solutions that have already been made. And because I know that like developer resources have been somewhat scarce, right? It's like that's something that we could really benefit from, perhaps. Yeah.
No, 100%. Because so I have another invitation for you. We're forming a refi circle, Regenerative Finance. Eventually, we're going to do recon when the world's ready to understand that concept. Economics, but we'll get there. But this one's about building bridges, checking into the financial protocols that we're running and deciding what other tools we want to use. Like, for example, we have a Ethereum virtual machine, and we could fork Uniswap and launch our own regenerative version of Uniswap. Do we want to do that? Maybe we do, maybe we don't. We're already launching an automated market making tool. It's called Seed Swaps. So we're going to launch that and put it out there as like a regenerative platform for finding projects that are doing good things for the environment or for pro-social behaviors, etc. Because I don't see that happening, and everyone's getting rug pulled. And I think we need a mix between whitelisted and a decentralized exchange where there's a body of people who are actually vetting projects.
I mean, Celo have just, or there's about to be like a wave of dApps released on the Celo blockchain, much of which have kind of social purpose, like more at their core, including like an automated market maker, and also like a kind of a fork of Aave, or maybe Compound, like a money market app, but targeted at micro loans for people just dealing with very small amounts of money. So this is like, but anyway, I'm super excited by the refi meme. I think it could really catch on, and I think it would be a great move for seeds to kind of position themselves as one of like the key projects in the refi. So I mean, I've been trying to do this like through all the courses that I've been running, of like plugging this meme and kind of mentioning seeds alongside, as you know, like Celo and Regen Network and Circles, and just like trying to give people a picture of like, look, there's something going on here. There's like, it's not just seeds out on their own. There's like there's actually a bunch of really exciting projects that, if that very soon at least will be offering a real alternative to some of what's going on in DeFi right now. And so some kind of refi conference, or refi, even better like a refi physical gathering sounds rad.
Like, let's just own it, and we'll do the regenerative finance and regenerative economics for it.
Cool. Yeah. I mean,
or we better name, like Renaissance University.
Yeah, but this is I think the time is right for some kind of gathering of the regenerative finance economics.
Should we do it
tribes.
in person here in Bali?
Sure. Yeah. I mean,
it's a massive. It's like Hogwarts meets Bali University campus for culinary arts, and it was like training people for cruise ships and 5-star.
Right.
But obviously, none of those things are hiring. And the guy who's running it, we're friends with, he's like, use my space, and it's gorgeous, and the whole it's like, we could take it over at almost no cost, and put on a conference here just as soon as the borders open. So it'd be really dope to plan that. And then when the borders open, it's kind of like a gathering, a calling of the tribes, to come here and, commit to our Renaissance.
Sounds amazing. That's definitely something that I would be up for, putting some energy into. And I anticipate that many of the 100 people that have just done the first Tools for the Regenerative Renaissance course, and probably another 100 that are going to do the second one. Actually, we're thinking of making the second one even bigger. We kind of figure it's like, once you've got 100 people, you might as well have 500 people actually. But, anyway, we'll see. We're still thinking. Say again.
Do 144.
144. Okay, 12 12s.
Yeah.
Okay, nice. If that feels good to you. Yeah. Anyway, expanding it.
Not too much,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Fair enough.
It's also right at like Dunbar's number of 150, where you get past. I think 144 is more accurate. What she was doing was rounding for because we liked round numbers at the time.
Yeah.
But now people are more appreciating the numerology of 144 and what that means and how powerful that is. And how the prices were actually right around 144. Look at Dunbar's research; it was 144. Around 150. So and around 150. It's no, motherfuckers, it was 144. Maybe
okay, nice.
I don't remember.
Okay, yeah, I'll take that to heart. But yeah, okay. So refi, Reecon conference at this campus in Bali.
Great, but we're also doing this in person, and that's what I'm asking you to join me.
I think I missed some of that, but what was the first part of that?
We're doing this in person in a conference, but that's what this academy is about. So the academy is literally about us getting together now digitally, starting Earth Day, and diving deeper. So the Renaissance U is hey, here's the wide picture. But I think this Ambassador Academy is taking all the wisdom you've been following up with and diving deeper into the group, and creating this mastermind, I guess, of people coming together to think about this and talk about calls and weave things in and build the bridges you're talking about. So create kind of a refi academy of helping people understand all the different platforms, plugging into them, building bridges.
Yeah, well, actually, I mean, that the context that I see that is that, and something that Phoebe and I have talked about is you could actually have, I mean, we're already thinking about courses for each of the 4 kind of content sections. So as you may remember, we had a week on, well, the first one could probably be 2 or even 3 separate courses. So you could have a whole course on regenerative agriculture. You could have a whole course on decentralized connectivity. You could have a whole course on decentralized energy, a whole course on what we call regenerative money, but essentially it could easily be called refi or something like this. A whole course on decentralized organizing and horizontal leadership, and a whole course on cooperative and steward ownership. So it's very much what some feels related to some of the ideas we've been kicking around. But yeah, I agree that I have this feeling that something that would be particularly significant, useful at this time would be the just more for seeds to take a leadership role in the whole space of regenerative money, refi, that kind of stuff. So that both, I think that's at both ends of the scale. That's both being a great place for total beginners to come and learn about this space, and also kind of playing a convening role for the organizations and the kind of the leaders of existing projects to come together to work out how we can better coordinate and collaborate. And hope, and in time, you hope that some of the people that were beginners are actually, start working on these projects or start new projects and actually become those leaders and actually the people speaking at these conferences into the future. But lots of possibilities here.
Yeah, that's what I love about the seeds approach that the community's taken, is they didn't take any VC money or concentrated capital that expected certain outcomes. So I think the seeds community was able to be a little bit more radical on how they're evolving it and the experiments they're trying and how far they go to rethink the whole paradigm of how we distribute value and how we see each other and how we create together. I think they're willing to go further than any of the typical organizations have. So I think that's where we actually synergize really well, is they're acting as a bridge and all of their needs can be met. So everything Cello is doing, I think that's great. There's still kind of a concentration of capital model where they have Cello Gold that kind of captures all of the value. It also captures the risk. But if that's successful, that will mean a smaller group of people got more wealthy, which is also fine. That old model works and that brings in a lot of capital. And now they're building a bridge between the 2 paradigms and making dollars really easy to use, helping people enter the crypto space a lot easier. and stepping into like those, revolution benefits. But I think then they can go deeper into the Renaissance as well.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
anyway,
I think,
I would love to work with Cello more, and I just absolutely love what they're doing. And I think we could build bridges and support each other. And by playing a leadership role, I think Seeds could just be the one that's actually inviting everyone to come play and saying, hey, we're on the same team. Let's build a bridge. Like, we'll connect into Regen Network. We'll connect into Holochain. We're going to connect into Cosmos, and we're going to connect into Cello if they would like us to.
Yeah, I think something that I heard there, I think is true, is that that Seeds has a kind of cultural capital and a kind of moral legitimacy from having not taken any VC funding, which you actually sit there, you can think it's actually similar in a kind of traditional DeFi space, similar to Yearn and YFI token, that there's real credit from the community associated with just having that kind of real grassroots launch. And I think that positions Seeds, gives Seeds quite a unique position in the kind of pantheon of refi projects, as possibly the most grassroots, and would give I would say, then lends the possibility to turn that into convening power and so so this I think some kind of online like conference could actually could and maybe should happen even before we can gather in person, given how uncertain like the kind of border situation is.
Let's do exactly that on Earth Day.
On Earth Day, which remind me of the date of Earth Day?
I think it's the 23rd, but I don't remember.
Of April.
Yeah.
Okay, it's pretty soon, but we can try. Yeah,
low expectations, because what we're doing here is we already have the information for people to study. So I'd like to actually just throw something together with you real quick about a course reading list, and maybe we can even adapt what you already had for Renaissance U and add some other stuff to it. So we have them read some certain material that'll take them, 2-3 weeks to do it. And if we get that out within a week, we're fine. And then all they do is we meet on Earth Day, and it's a co-facilitation. So it's not as structured as Renaissance U was. This is more like we're coming together and we're just going to go through the game guide section by section. So it's easy. I just will introduce a section, the theory behind it. Everyone feeds in their thoughts. We tweak the protocols and we walk through it. And I think we can kick that off because it's low effort. And then once we understand what this game is capable of, then we expand out into the other ecosystem, build bridges, and support it.
Okay, so for the 23rd of April, your kind of intention or desire is to focus reasonably and specifically on the Seeds game guide as a kind of prelude to then make like kind of actually doing more stuff with other projects in the space. Did I understand that right?
Yeah, definitely. For people who want that deeper dive on the Seeds side.
I missed that. Say again.
I said yes, definitely, especially for the people who are looking for that deeper dive on the Seed side.
Yeah, cool.
But it's still expressing it as this is what's possible in a regenerative economic world. The guide starts off as we're in a game to create a new type of civilization. So that's their expression. Maybe it's actually Cello. Like, hell yes, if the Ambassador Academy or the Architect Academy came through and is like, actually, all these other tools are doing it way better. If we connected this way, we'd actually meet our goals in a much quicker, healthier, and more thrivable way. We'd be like, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So a tool that's being expressed in this environment and what things are possible. So it's helping people understand that and then evolve. Look at other things.
So what I'm hearing, sensing is that like we certainly could invite a representative of these various other refi projects to this day, like kind of reviewing the game guide. They may, so I think some of them would send someone.
I love that.
And probably not all of them will, and that's fine. But even just having extended the invitation, I think would be just a really interesting first step to show the spirit in which we're doing this. Yeah, and that so then they can say themselves. If some of them do come, someone from Regen Network or Cello could say, actually, we've got some ideas on this or whatever. So that sounds like a nice idea. But anticipating the majority of the people who would be attending something like this would be people who are already embedded within the Seeds community that
I think we could position this really well. We position it as a learning opportunity. They're going to learn about some new protocols, some new way of looking at things. So their research teams or whoever's writing their protocols would gain a lot from this dialogue. Second, then it would be an express invitation to build together. So we'll show you our protocols, what they do, you show me yours. And then we're going to see the best way to plug in and unite our communities, and this is our invitation to learn about what we're up to as we're announcing it to the community. We want to play together. We want to make sure we're not stepping in your terms because that's silly. Let's specialize in what we're really good at and play together.
Yeah, I think what would work
organs in the metabody.
I think what would work well there is to draw up an invite list, and so you send that invitation list, which is maybe 10 projects and 10 or something, to each of those projects, and say like we've invited representatives from all of these projects, which then I find works well as a kind of we don't want to empty chair you. It's like if you don't turn up, these other 9 might turn up, and then it would kind of look bad for you, and like that. We don't want that. So
the United Nations, and we're going to guilt you into playing with us.
No guilt involved, but just an encouragement and an invitation to be part of something beautiful. Yeah,
come from the most beautiful, purest place of our hearts and send a message of love. Those who respond to that message are exactly the ones we want there. We don't want people responding out of like a game mechanic that manipulated them into doing it.
No, we don't. But I think it's also totally reasonable just to kind of mention the projects that are invited as a kind of just to show that we're aware of like what's going on in the space, and actually I think there is a bunch of the refi world is still, I think it's getting better, but it has been kind of not that well kind of connected and aware of itself. So I think we'll be doing a service of just like helping to see, encouraging people to like see those connections. So okay, Rand.
And this is why I say I'm serving the regenerative renaissance. This concept that's way bigger than seeds. Like seeds doesn't claim that. It's just words that's being put together that kind of reference this whole meta shift that's happening. And tons of different organizations are all serving this, but I don't think we've necessarily figured out to agree that we're serving this higher goal and figure out how to actually play together. A lot of people in that, we all share the same desire to do it, but no one's really gotten good at actually building all the webs together, So I love that to be what Seed's role is in all of this, is to actually be a connecting force. To say, okay, what are you doing? Let's weave you into the meta body. You do really good at you, and we're going to help you do better. But now you're
what about the idea? Because there's how many sections of the game guide are there?
There's 4 major sections. Here, let me introduce it real quick to you.
I mean, I'm happy to do that, but just even before we get into that, like I was thinking, like if we did, if these various projects did send like a representative, potentially as a way of like breaking things up, we could invite one or maybe a couple of representatives from those projects to maybe do really short presentations, maybe just like 5 or 10 minute presentation of their projects between each section of the game guide. So we're kind of flipping between like
we're going through all the projects at the same time.
So it's just briefly, it's like can be clear that the focus of the day is seeds and is of the game guide. But like just say say that again.
I don't even know if it has to be that way. Why don't we do an equal share? Whoever wants to do it, let's split the time, and they get that same floor to express. So like what we actually have the sections is regenerative organizing. That's broad. So we tell every one of the organizations, show up and tell us how you're regeneratively organized. That's your time to talk about all the different organization hacks you put together to do it better and more, beautifully and regenerative. Awesome.
Yeah.
Section 2 is governance. Like, what are the governance things you're doing? Everyone's doing something unique in this space.
Yeah.
Like how do you make decisions and decide together? What unique things are you doing? Regenerative finance, same idea. So each section is super broad in that way. And then what you can do is just share equal floor space and say, here's how we're doing it. You share how you're doing it. But now it's saying we're all on the same footing here of wisdom. It's not better than you.
I think probably how that would work well is, or an appropriate way to handle that, we might be to say we're going to devote, who knows, like 2 hours to each of these sections, and if you and any other organization is willing to like say we'd like to propose this, to present on this topic as well. And so if 4 organizations all have something to say on regenerative finance, then it's like half an hour each. But if it's like, if Seeds is the only organization with something to say in the space, then potentially Seeds gets the full 2 hours or something like this. So, so there's, and so because not all of the organizations are going to have something to present on all of these topics, but there might be some areas where actually there's a lot of, a great number of organizations with something to say. So that's one idea that just came in.
Okay, so do you want to put a role together in HIFA to do this?
Let me think. Do I want to put a role together on how to do this?
We'll pay you full time to do this if you'd like.
So the answer is I would love that, and my only hesitation is just my other commitments right now. Like it's unlikely to be able to be full time, but I think I'm at the point where I could put a significant amount of energy into this. So like at the very least around the kind of curation and the kind of encouraging other, through the tools course, I've developed connections with at the very least Circles and Cello, for example. So I think I could
have an idea.
Part of the team that like extends those invitations and kind of encourages other organizations to get involved.
Fuck yes, and you sparked something. What we can run right now is we put out an invitation for people who want to co-create the April 20th event. And then we just start having calls every, N days, maybe every other day.
You're talking about April 23rd, right? The Earth Day event you're talking?
We put this invitation out right now and say, hey, we're meeting on these days to talk about putting on this event. If you want to come help us do this, join the calls. They're getting out work and people are getting paid on this token.
Yeah, I think, and so with the structure being, at least as we know it right now, there's gonna be like a full day meeting on April the 23rd. Is that what we're imagining?
Ooh, no, I would say we're kicking off session 1 where we're introducing the game. So that's like an introduction to the Regenerative Renaissance and also an invitation to these other projects. So that might be really cool. Is we're just putting on the one, like we don't have to reach out to the other projects just yet. What we do is we put on the April 23rd event to introduce the Regenerative Renaissance. We come up and say, hey, we're one project, but what we're really serving is this bigger picture. This is us changing the story of how humanity interacts with our, like changing the relationship with money, with each other, like recreating how economies and civilizations could look like.
Yeah. We're
playing one part, but we recognize that all of you are playing your own parts as well.
Yeah.
And we're all playing a different organ of this meta civilization we're creating. The new one's about collaboration. We're going to out collaborate the competition, right? So this new one is about that, but we haven't really learned how to do it. So our invitation is to come together and actually learn how to collaborate. And we're going to talk about each one of these different sections. And here's an invitation for you to come join us.
So, but just so maybe so you're imagining that the meeting on the 23rd of April just kind of being. Say again?
Is also an invitation to put on the whatever we're calling this, the Architect Academy.
So, but then the actual sections, going section by section, you're saying that would happen on subsequent sessions,
right?
Like other time. Okay, so you're imagining a kind of
maybe like once a month. So maybe that would give us a 1 month to put on the next one or something. It doesn't have to be quick pace.
Okay, so that's okay. So then.
So we can go flexible with it. Like we don't have to rush them.
Yeah. And okay, and then each month.
You want to, unless you want to.
So,
how does that sound? Would you prefer a different pace? Because you guys just did weekly, so is that a more comfortable pace?
Yeah. Okay, I see what you're getting at now. Yeah.
Like how fast are you wanting to run right now? Do you want to kind of walk?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm. I think that there's two. there might be two things going on here, like, or it might just be that they're kind of there's like, or it might be they can be effectively merged. There's like kind of just helping people that are interested in seeds, essentially students of seeds, like to understand properly and fully this game guide. And then there's the possibility of this being a kind of let's say multi-week conference for people that are kind of already experts in, you know, in one or more of these topics. And it's like convening people like quite, you know, that are already working at quite a high level in these topics to really dig deep and really kind of like and share what they're all doing and like refine each other's ideas. And I think it could potentially be the same thing, or maybe maybe it's separate.
Something to reflect for you. You can tell me if this resonates. Renaissance University puts this on.
Mm-hmm.
And then Renaissance University is financed by Haifa right now. But the Renaissance U can actually play kind of like a UN Nations role where it seeks, you know, payment from all the different member states, you know, that want to be part of this. So that could be the, you know, the life cycle of Renaissance University and how it becomes its own organization, or it starts this way, where it's playing a neutral ground for all the different Renaissance projects that showcase what they're about. So then Seeds gets equal representation to any of these other projects, because then you're playing an impartial role and it's a more neutral invitation. And I think we ought to play games that do make it strictly neutral, because otherwise weird power dynamics will start and then we're back in the old game. So I think in order to start off as a new game footing, let's start off with new rules. We all
that sounds good to me. Like I still have a question around the intended audience for this course or for these sessions. Like, is this more for like beginners, like, and that's going to be kind of, you know, really just taking people very gently and very slowly through this, or is it for people that are like kind of already, you know, potentially working in other organizations in the space, already very much aware of the whole, you know, crypto, blockchain, tech, and probably a lot of these ideas in regenerative organizing and governance and so on, to talk about these ideas at quite a high level and to offer some, like, you know, kind of cross-pollination and refining. Like, yeah, and what are your thoughts on that?
100% yes. Ideally, this is people who are either deep in the natural sciences, deep into permaculture, deep into, you know, other cryptocurrency projects.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, they're systems thinkers. That's who we want,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why we're calling it the Architect Academy. We're talking mm-hmm. about this is for diving deep, really tearing it apart, understanding it line by line, discussing the, you know, the systemic details of it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the intended audience. So it's not a beginner's guide. I think the Renaissance University that you guys are putting on is, or mm-hmm. introductory. We even have an ambassador mm-hmm. academy, which is like super beginners, you know, it could take anyone. Mm-hmm. So anyway, no, I think what we're going to be putting on is deeper dive. People who are really in the space, systems thinkers, wanting to come together and redesign, you know, the Renaissance, which is bigger than Seeds. So
then I would on that basis, I think possibly like I can see why it could be called an academy, and I like the word architect, but I'm not sure that Architect Academy is the right frame for this. If we're approaching it kind of, because there's a danger that it kind of contains a power dynamic a bit. It can like an academy is like there's going to be a teacher and there's going to be students, you know. Whereas actually, what I'm hearing is like actually we don't necessarily want it to be like that. We want it to be something which is more peer-to-peer, like everyone's on, you know, we're coming together just to share knowledge on a kind of more equal footing, rather than Seeds or Renaissance or whoever like teaching anyone else.
Fuck yes. Why don't we call it Renaissance Architects?
So yeah, that's closer to the exactly. That's closer to the mark. You know, it's like I would really emphasize the architect thing rather than the academy piece. Like to emphasize that this is for people that are working at a high level, and it's like we've got Renaissance U tools for regenerative Renaissance course if you want to come in at a lower, a kind of like a more beginner level. And so yeah, that sounds good.
Be elitist in any sense, but could we have a filter where we require, you know, some level of understanding in one of those like particular sciences or something. You have a deep understanding and you're a system. That's a particular archetype. We have like an archetypal, filter where we filter out that are, not wanting to actually go deep.
I think it could be like it could potentially be a combination of like there are people that we go out and specifically invite because we're already very convinced that they have the appropriate knowledge, and we're hoping that they will say yes, but also have a kind of public application form where anyone can apply, and there's a few questions there that basically that ask them about their background and like ask them to kind of in some way just lightly demonstrate their knowledge or competence on these topics, and then we pick up a whole load of people from that. But one way or another we end up, and we explain that we're intending to end up with like a very high level and like switched on group that can really like dig deep into all of these topics.
Man, you could really put this on, huh? You're explaining to me in precise detail exactly how you do it and do really well at doing it. So I have full confidence for you to do this and do things. So
I mean, like well, let me evaluate my
body just said yes, and then your mind tried to override.
Well, it's in the context. I find it very easy to get excited about things, but it's also about balancing my other commitments, and so I'm going to need to just take a moment just to contemplate those. But I'm well aware that I'm at a point actually in my year that I've just come to the end of a bunch of different projects. So this is actually a relatively good time to be having this conversation. And
you just shared it. You wanted to play, a grounding role in all the different projects. You're saying you wanted seeds to take that, but maybe you're not seeing seeds taking that. Maybe that's what Renaissance U does, or whatever we call this next thing. Like you're feeling a drive to be that grounding, unifying force, which is also where you're spending your time with all the different projects, understanding them all.
I think there's a lot. There's some. I'm certainly feeding that motivation towards being that a web weaver. It's actually a phrase that Phoebe uses about herself as well. Kind of connecting projects and ideas. I don't know whether for the same reasons of like talking about the word academy, I don't know whether Renaissance U is necessarily the right vehicle for or like kind of organization to be headlining. Maybe it is. I get that like universities, apart from doing teaching, or let's say more than doing teaching, they're doing research. And they're doing that. They're encouraging people to come together. So I think actually, maybe it could be the right balance.
Renaissance University, because it's a renaissance of the university model as well. So we're taking down the hierarchy of teacher-student relationship, and it's we're co-facilitators. We're teaching each other what we know, and we're learning and experimenting and researching together.
Cool. I think,
and it should be for society.
So
and paying people for doing it.
So Renaissance U, Renaissance Architects. Seminar series or something like this, and there's gonna be an
Renaissance Architect sessions,
Renaissance Architect sessions, and so you're like either invited or you apply to be a Renaissance architect.
And it's one of these sessions, which if you're applying, you're saying, I have a lot of wisdom on regenerative governance. I'm going to join that and share. Or I have a lot of wisdom on regenerative organizing. So that's actually it. We're saying, okay, here's what the sessions are about. Come apply and tell us why you have a lot of stuff to share here. And then only the people who apply feel like they have something to share, and then we pick amongst them, right? Or everyone, whatever we can take.
I think
of the sessions.
Yeah, and so at the very least, seeds, is or someone in the kind
of apply to all of them and like default
right
because we apply.
Right, exactly, yeah. So very least seeds is going to kind of.
If that is unfair. Is that unfair? Maybe it is. Actually, no. Impartial.
maybe Renaissance you won't accept you. Yeah, it depends how good your application is.
Like everyone else, and we have a panel of non-seed people. Like you and Phoebe are kind of outside it, or grab somebody else. Maybe have like Daniel Christian Wall or one of the people that we just brought on to say, look, you can judge these, applications. It'll take you, 50 minutes to pick your X or whatever, and tell us who should be it.
Maybe. I mean, like, I think there's
And if we're trying to solve them, and what's not winning?
I appreciate the like where that's coming from. I also think it's actually can be very much be kind of in service for an organization, just to kind of say, to show up and say, we're going to be there even if no one else is. So I don't think it would be a problem exactly for Seeds to for one organization, in this case Seeds, to kind of have a free pass just as the kind of anchor of each of these sessions. So that's we can feed into that. Yeah,
that's fair. I mean, in every case you would need one system that you see in its wholeness,
but okay, rad. So I'm actually seeing Phoebe maybe tonight, actually, otherwise like in person. Over the next couple of days. She's actually down. In real life. She was in Berlin and London, and she's just coming down to Totnes in the southwest of England for a few days.
Excellent.
So yeah, we're gonna.
You two call me together.
Sure. Yeah.
Because let's bring her into this too. She would love this.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, certainly if it's going to be done under the Renaissance U banner, it feels like she's part of that particular collective now, and like has attached feels an attachment to things that are happening under that name. So it would, at the very least, it would need to be done with her blessing, and it might very well be that she wants to put energy into like actually making this happen as well.
If so, then either the Renaissance U or a different vehicle with a different name, but regardless, put up an incubation request for HIFA. So instead of HIFA paying out those roles, what we're going to do is finance you guys as a different startup, give you, X amount of dollars a month, and then you guys can hire other people or bring in more, or do whatever you need to do. And then
right. Okay, so I think this part might be new to me, actually. So
we did it with Samara and Local Scale. We both gave them incubation fund. Local Scale's been building, marketplaces. You know him. Samara is this other version of HIFA, essentially, where they're trying things out in a different way. It's just a gorgeous, demonstration side of, how we can rethink governance. Actually, the space to teach other organizations like how, well, not teach, but they're making maps. So they're saying, hey, this is how we got here. You can learn from this, and here's how you remix it for your own cultural setting.
Yeah, nice. Is it possible to? So is there a particular type of proposal that's like an incubation proposal or something, or is it just?
It is, and how that works is that you create a token for your organization. We even help you with the tokenomics of it, so it makes sense.
Yeah.
And I see a really cool one for the universities. We'll have a different call about that, but we're not the university per se, but that model of people coming together to co-learn and co-create and co-research and build a new structure together. Like maybe we don't call it a university, but whatever. Maybe we call it a collaboratory. So it's a collaborative laboratory where we're coming together to collaborate on how to co-create new types of systems.
So and what I'm just on the HIFA do now, and so I'm not seeing anything relating to actually incubation or organization. So what's the system there? Yeah.
Am I still sharing my screen?
You are, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. We'd have to look back a little ways, but let's do it. And I'll pull you up their model. So we can create a token. We'll say, okay, we put in what? $30,000 US into each one of them. And then they go on a quest that could take them, maybe a month and a half to do. And then they just request more budget, and we kind of do that. So their quest is saying like, hey, we want an incubation request. This is what we plan on doing with it. This is the deliverables that we're going to execute on. And this is how much money we want to get it done. We're like, oh, cool. Yeah, we really like that. And fund it. And then they do that on a month-to-month basis. So that's basically what this new model could do, is that architects could come together and say, hey, we want to pay ourselves a salary of X dollars a month for taking the time out each week to bring our wisdom here and build this. Cool. Put together a proposal and get funded to do that. Actually, we have extra money. Who wants to get hired full time and really take this on, or whatever?
So I'm just trying to get clear about like what. So would that be done using like one of these existing contribution proposals, or is that something different in the context of an organization?
Okay. One of the old ones. Let me go find one, and then you can just copy it and use it as a template.
Uh-huh.
Samara did a really good one. Yeah, so
I
they
see.
did
Okay,
two
yeah.
different perspectives. They did this roots quest, which
Yeah.
they from the perspective of them finding out their core, like who they are, how they make decisions, like how they compensate each other, like all that cool stuff.
Yeah.
But that's also what they're making maps about, like how we made decisions of how we compensated ourselves, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Branches is more like setting up pilots, creating information about sharing who they are, how this movement works, so they can help other organizations, serve the Renaissance, so to speak. So anyway,
Yeah.
get both of those perspectives. And then
Okay, rad.
building market. So anyway,
So
kind of see that you put a couple of key objectives there, like, so you can copy this idea.
Okay, and so now the local scale and Samara both have their own dues installed on various domains. Like, are they also using the Hypha tool to organize?
They will soon. Our next thing we're releasing with the do is multi-instance, so you can see just like your different servers and the different dues. Because otherwise you have to fork it and we're on two different instances, and then we wouldn't be able to do it later. It's difficult. We're close to having that, and then yes, they absolutely will. Local already has their own .local token and issued them and sent us ours. And we can do that for the Renaissance year, and that'll be cool because then you can be paying all the Renaissance, architects that come together. Everyone's getting paid, and these tokens for showing up, right? They're co-creating a new organism together. And then what's really cool then is then you'll also decide how they have value. So you're part of this learning process. How these other ecosystems work is figuring out your own value proposition, right? And how you plug into the whole, meta system.
And these are like these are kind of Telos native tokens, just like Seeds is kind of alongside Seeds, are they?
Yeah, exactly. And Telos has a bridge to Ethereum, so you can hop over there. We're building a bridge to Cosmos right now, so you can hop over there. So when we build a bridge to somewhere, which we have intentions of building bridge to everywhere,
just a little question. So I know that like on it's via P network, isn't it? That it's possible to bridge the Telos native token itself over to Ethereum. I haven't yet seen a way to actually bridge like Telos based tokens like Seeds over to Ethereum. I don't know whether you've got an easy answer to that, or whether that's maybe not quite arrived yet.
Yeah, that would have to be for the Circle leads. They know how to do that stuff. And by Circle leads, I mean like the smart contract tech leads. They deal with that. I'm more on the economics side and less on the implementation building.
Yeah, I'm very much aware of that. That's okay, but as far as you're aware that it has already happened, like tech exists to actually bridge those tokens.
Telos already did a launch on Uniswap and sold a bunch of their tokens, and they're bringing for Ethereum ERC20 tokens to their DEX next week. So it's going back.
Okay, cool. That's good to know. There's other people I can catch up with on that. Okay, awesome.
I think would be willing to talk with you. I think there's.
So who was that?
Douglas Horn. He's the yeah. Actually, he'd be cool to bring on one of the sessions to talk about Telos. So he'd be that invite, and he would totally come. So that'd be really cool to have.
Nice. Okay, I feel like
that could even be part of what it shares. How are you in regenerative economics? Well, we're helping people connect. We just helped Ethereum connect with us, so we can communicate with your projects. Generate an organism. Anyway.
Rad. Okay, I feel like maybe it's time to pause for I'm feeling pretty happily full up.
I was like close, so we had to keep it going.
So that I think given that I'm seeing Phoebe in the next couple of days, like that will be the next port of call. And then from whatever emerges from that conversation, one of the most simple and important questions there is like, is Phoebe happy for this to be kind of done in or in connection with Renaissance U? And it kind of like probably almost certainly the answer is yes. If the answer is no, then like it can still happen. It can just happen under some other different banner, right? And so one way or another, I'm up for distilling of some of what we've talked about today into some kind of like kind of event description draft, maybe a kind of invite letter draft as well. And I can like yeah, I could send that across to you, and we can kind of then jam on it together. And then, and
Yeah.
also looking forward to.
At the 2 seeds with one hand, if you write that and with the perspective of it being used as a proposal to get you funding for it, then add
Yeah,
like the key deliverables and stuff like that.
Yeah, cool.
And how much it would cost. So
Nice. Okay, rad. Thanks. This has been a lot. Been what, let's say, more fun than I expected, and certainly different. But that's something that's true about working on in this area, particularly with seeds. So yeah, it feels. I feel the aliveness.
That's here. I've got to share this with you because it's the guiding thing for all of this. At least for me, this is my guiding thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's the first page because it gets so much pushback. Why play a game? So it's like, if we get to, co-create what new civilization should look like, why the fuck not make them fun? So if we can, why wouldn't we, So here's my starting out, like my case for play, Everyone who's done incredible things, look at these, like Abraham Maslow, like this guy is incredibly genius. Almost all creativity books from purposeful play. So anyway, I think if whatever we're doing, if it doesn't feel playful and full of love and joy and feeling like being a child running around and exploring the world again, if it doesn't feel like that, then why the fuck even do it? And I just create a culture where everyone has that, privilege. Because fuck, man, it's bullshit that is privilege. Like I'm super privileged being able to do that.
Yeah.
So that's why we get to play the economic game, because that means we get to change the rules where everyone gets the opportunity to do what they're fucking passionate about. But playful and joyful and get paid a thriving wage for doing it. Like, why not?
Yeah.
And
I'm with you. Well, it's been good to play today, and yeah, I look forward to to keep playing this game over the coming weeks together.
Have a beautiful day, and we will talk here soon. And that's it. Cheers.
Yeah. Go on.